Batwoman episode 10. Can't believe we're up to 10 already. This is half over. Time off for good behavior. So this episode starts with Ryan. She's kicking ass and taking names. She's taking out the False Face Society, taking down that snake bite, looking for Black Mass. There was even a moment where there was a reporter that was actually on the scene when Batwoman was beating up and taking down the criminals. And then Batwoman got so mad because she asked this one dude, she was like, who's Black Mask? And then he was like, I don't know. That's why we all wear masks. And then she knocked the guy out. And then the reporter was just like, we're on the scene where Batwoman just took down one of the False Faces societies, like major crime gangs or whatever. And then like Ryan just walks up to the camera woman, grabs the microphone, and then she's just like, Black Mask, we coming for you, suck. And I actually died. I thought that was very funny. So after she talked to Luke about it, because they're just like, listen, we need to find out who these people are. Luke's like, yo, I'm on it. We then revisit Sophie's sister, because remember in the last episode, Sophie's sister said that she wanted to start a community center. She wanted to start an outreach program so she can, take the kids off the street and she could have a place for the youth to go. Ryan, Luke, and Mary ended up backing and supporting the idea, and it actually worked because they got the community center off the ground, and they're now at the unveiling of this new community center. So while everybody's there, they're celebrating a job well done. Sophie's sister introduced Ryan to this other Black woman that actually works at the community center as well. She kind of flirted with Ryan a little bit, so that's going to probably be something later. And then at that moment, this reporter came in, and when the reporter came in, he was just like, hey, aren't you guys worried about, the community center being a target? And then the girl was just like, ain't nobody targeting us but the government trying to take our funds. And he was like, aren't you? He's like, but places like this, that's supposed to be like a safe haven for kids, end up becoming targets. He's like, aren't you worried about, this whole place being a target? And then she's just like, you better worry about she's like, you better write a story about the government and the cops who are, who are targeting the Black people every day. She's like, where's your story about that? And then everybody kind of like shamed the dude. And then he ended up leaving the community center. He ended up being right, because just at that moment, somebody attacked the community center, and the person tried to burn the place to the ground. Like he took shots at everybody ducked and hid and ran for cover. And now like the community center's been attacked, and Ryan's upset. She ends up talking to Luke, and when she had the conversation with Luke, she was just like, hey, this reporter that came in, he was asking questions about the community center potentially being a target. And right after he asked his questions about the community center being targeted, the community center ended up being targeted. And then Luke looked up his information, and he was just like, well, this dude also isn't even like, he doesn't even have a job. Like he doesn't even, like you said, he's a reporter. He doesn't even work for a paper because he got fired 6 months ago. So now they're just like, well, for that, he has to be the guy that, that took the place out. So Ryan puts the bat suit on. She goes and runs up on the dude, and she's just like, yo, why are you targeting the community center? And he was like, targeting? He was like, first of all, I'm the one that's actually trying to do a story on them to bring light to the situation, because he said that wasn't the first community center that got targeted. He said there are a bunch of community centers all over the city that are being taken down. And I started looking into it. He was like, I was looking into it. I had some leads. Just when I was about to like get somewhere with my investigation and my research, I was abruptly fired from my job. And he was like, I don't know why, but I'm not giving up on the story. So then when Batwoman was talking to him, Luke was just like, yeah, but the motive of why these random community centers are being taken down doesn't make sense. And then at that moment, like the same dude who took down Sophie's sister's center, he showed up, and he tried to shoot the reporter. He actually tried to kill the reporter using his electric gun. Luckily he missed. Well, actually, I don't know if he missed on purpose, but he shot when he shot him, it basically hit his bag that had his laptop in it, and it roasted his laptop. But then, like Batwoman, like she jumped out the way. Then when she looked up, the homeboy was gone. But the dude, he had actually got shot. Like although it hit the computer, he ended up getting like some second or third degree burns, from the backlash of that shot. So, Ryan takes him down this, to Mary. Mary reopens the clinic, because remember, Jacob Kane shut it down. Mary reopens the clinic. She ends up giving the dude medical attention, and she ends up saving the guy's life. So now they're trying to figure out, well, what's the connection? What's the motive here? Like, like this reporter guy gets taken out. They end up getting a fingerprint, because when the guy who had the gun that tried to shoot them, he ended up dropping the gun and leaving the gun behind. Ryan takes the gun back to Luke. Luke gets a fingerprint. They go down to prison to find out who this person was, because the fingerprint matched somebody who was in jail. And when they looked up the person who was in prison, they're just like, yo, this dude was supposed to serve a 10-year life sentence, and he just got out on parole the other day. So they're just like, yo, something fishy's going on. And then they start looking into the other instances where other community centers were being targeted as well. And they were just like, yeah, like there are a bunch of prisoners that on the day that these community centers, were targeted, the very next day, an inmate just happened to get released from prison who was supposed to be serving like a long period of life sentence. Ryan was just like, so there's somebody that's breaking these prisoners out of jail. He was like, no, I think someone in the prison is letting them out to go take down these community centers. And they end up doing more research, and then they find out that the warden is the only person who had access to everybody. The warden is the person who had the pull to get the reporter guy fired from his job. They found out that the warden is the person who's letting these prisoners out to take down these community centers and then report, and then coming back to him, and then he does them the favor by letting them out of prison or getting them time off for good behavior. So now they know who the target is, and the reason why he was targeting that, because there's basically no money to be made in the prison system if you take if you take the poor youth off the street. Like if you save kids, if you take kids off the street, if you protect kids from society, they're never going to grow up to be criminals. They're never going to do bad things. They're never going to end up in jail. And then this dude's not going to have a job anymore. So he basically was doing all this to preserve his own job, having no faith that these kids can turn their lives around and be somebody. So Batwoman, she runs up on the guy in some random construction site. She beats the dude up, takes him down. She ended up having her people run up on him, but then Luke showed up because he had fixed the gun that they had. Luke showed up, put 3 in everyone's back. He saves Batwoman, and then everything's okay. Batwoman locks the guy up. The warden ends up in prison, which is ironic. And one of the reason why they were actually able to get the information on the warden was because Ryan ended up talking to Angelica earlier, and then she was just like, the 2 people that took down some of these community centers, one had on like a gas mask, one had on like this other weird mask, and then she was just like, I spoke to Sophie from the Crows, and she said if you can ID these people, they'll get you out, they can actually get you out of prison. So Angelique, like, she does it, she dropped dime, and then Sophie and the gang, they go down to the warehouse, they find the 2 guys that burnt down some of the community centers. They ended up being dead. And they knew that. They were just like, oh, Black Mask is like, tying up loose ends or whatever. So they know where the connection is because Sionis, Black Mask, he was working with the warden to do all this. So, so Sophie kept her word. She ended up getting Angelique out of prison. They were going to put her in protective custody. While she was on her way to protective custody, a car showed up, killed the police officers. They grabbed Angelique and then they dragged her away because Black Mask found out that she dropped dime. So now he wants, now he wants to kill her. There was even a moment where Black Mask was talking to his gang, and he was telling his gang, he was just like, oh, why is our snake venom, our snake bite not on the streets? Batwoman, why is Batwoman able to take our stuff off the streets? And then one of his minions ended up saying, she was just like, Batwoman's not even the problem because we don't even really have snake bite anymore because Ocean disappeared and the girl who knows how to cook it was in prison, which is why he didn't kill Angelique. He just snatched her up to bring her back because since Ocean's gone, Black Mask needs Angelique to make more snake bite, to make more snake venom. But the funny thing about that scene is the one minion that ended up talking to Black Mask who told him that was like, yo, we don't have Ocean or Angelique. That was Kate. Like, that was actually Kate. And it's like, you could tell by the voice, the actress who got cast to recast Kate Kane, she kind of sounds like her. So I was just like, so what's up? We just not gonna, like, there was like no, it was just one of those subtle things where you just had to be paying attention from day one of the show to know what that is. He was basically having a conversation with Kate. So, like I said, Enigma, she brainwashed Kate, and now Kate works for the False Face Society. So it's only a matter of time before they pull the mask off and find out that's really Kate. But I thought that was really dope. And then, like, it ended with Angelique being taken away, and then Ryan, like, screaming her name through the other side of the phone. Commander Kane, in the early of the episode, he got run up on, by the False Face Society. They ended up, jamming Snakebite into his arm. And the thing with the Snakebite, it makes you hallucinate, and it makes you relive, like your deepest, darkest, like fear, like the thing that in life that you regret the most. And it puts you in a fantasy state where you can relive that moment and actually, like, do better the second time around. So for him, his biggest failure was losing Alice, losing Beth, not saving her from the house when he had the chance. But he was forced into taking Snakebite. He didn't take it on purpose, but now he's kind of hooked on it. So now he's doing the whole thing where he's like rocking back and forth, he's scratching his arm, and he ends up, like asking a doctor for assistance. The doctor, the person who's I guess she's like the physician for the Crows, or the Crows' go-to physician. That person happens to be Enigma, who also worked for Sophia, who also, worked for Black Mask, as far as like brainwashing Kate. So this woman actually works in the Crows. So when Commander Kane brought her in, the two of them spoke, and then she was just like, oh, how long have you been taking, snake bite? And then she was like, oh, you should come to my office and then we should have like a therapy session and talk about it. So he brings her in, and then, while he was in therapy, he was just like, like I can't, he's like, I'm still hooked on snake venom, because I need to revisit Beth over and over again to save my daughter. And then she was just like, well, instead of focusing on, because she's like, I can't help you with the withdrawal syndrome, but she's like, in order for you to maybe feel better about the daughter that you didn't save, try repairing a relationship with the one that you have left in Mary, because him and Mary aren't talking. So then he ends up going down to Mary's clinic because he found out that she reopened the clinic, and then he was like, well, how about I help you fund this place so it can become legit? And then Mary was like, no. She was just like, I didn't do the clinic for the clinic to become legit. She said, I did the clinic to help people who couldn't afford insurance, people that don't have IDs, don't have homes, don't have certain resources. She's like, I built this thing to save the community. And she said, if you make the place legit, it's going to require all this red tape, and then the people that need the medical attention the most won't have it. So then, like, they got it. So like the two of them got into it. She got mad. She walked away. And then Commander Kane, he was just like, screw it. And then he just took more of that snake venom, because Black Mask think he's slick, because Black Mask, he's got his hands in everything that's going on in the city. He had his hands in on the warden. He had his hands in, as far as Enigma's concerned. And he also has his hands in on Commander Kane, because he's obviously he sent the False Face gang to get him hooked on Snakebite, because the Crows were also trying to take Snakebite off the street along with Batwoman. So he knew he was hooked on it, because obviously Enigma told him. He knew how desperately he wanted a hit. So he went to him, not as Black Mask, but as Mr. Sionis. And he was just like, oh, Jacob, my old friend. He was like, one of my employees at one of my businesses had this in their locker, and I wanted to give it to you, because, like, you're the Crows and you're taking this garbage off the streets. He knew he was going to take that shit. And that's exactly what happened. Commander King folded under the pressure, and Black Mask tricked him. He got him. He got him to take the snake bite, and now he's really hooked on snake bite. So Jacob Kane's going to have a drug problem from now until the rest of the season. Julia, she's still trying to investigate what happened to her lost memory. She's trying to figure out, like, how come I don't remember anything? And she was like, oh, I had an itinerary and I don't remember that. She's like, I took a plane ride to some place and I don't remember that either. And then somebody gave her a note, because Alice had sent her a note, and then, she went to go talk to Alice. And that was a cool scene. It was a cool scene when Julia was talking to Alice, because Julia because you're used to Alice being the one that's like, oh, like, you're doing this and you're all scared and I'm Alice and I've got in your head. Julie was just like, oh, you must be really desperate if you've come to me, love. And then she was just like, oh, you miss Kate Kane, and because you miss Kate, now you're coming to me. She's like, you reek of desperation. And that was actually a really cool scene, and kudos to Julia, for pulling that off. But Alice told her, she was like, I need your help, because there's a woman named Enigma that took my memories and wiped my mind clean, and I need your help to find her. And then she was like, well, why do you want to find her? So you can erase the pain of not having your sister. And then she's like, no, I want to erase the pain of the person who caused me to lose my memories to begin with. I guess she wants to wipe Ocean clean. But then Julia started thinking, because she was just like, what you're talking about kind of sounds like what happened to me. So Julia was just like, all right. She's like, I actually think I know who the Enigma person is. So, Beth goes down to Enigma's practice where Jacob Kane was. She found a tape recorder that had his session on it. She listened to Jacob spill his guts about how he wishes he could have saved Beth. Beth got a little emotional, but she was like, sorry, Daddy, I'm still going to kill you and everyone in Gotham, and then she would do what she had to do. Julia rolled up on Enigma at Crow's headquarters, and then she was just like, bitch, you're the one who brainwashed me. Why'd you brainwash me? And she was just like, it's none of your business. And then she took something, stabbed Julia in the thigh. She was like, yeah, I brainwashed you and I'm gonna do it again. And then Julia passed out. She worked her brainwashing magic on Julia. And then, I guess the next day or like later on in the day, Sophie bumped into Julia, and then she was just like, hey, how's everything going? And she's like, oh, it's great, love. I decided to put in a transfer because there's nothing left for me in Gotham. And then Sophie was like, well, shit, that came out of nowhere, but it's only a matter of time before they put two and two together, because Sophie's not really thinking about it right now. She's not thinking about the fact that, Julia just abruptly left. She just thinks like, okay, maybe it's me because we used to date and I broke up with her. But Alice is going to figure it out, because Alice knows the deal. Alice knows who Enigma really is. And Alice is going to be the one to tell Sophie, like, hey, your girl got hypnotized. She's brainwashed. So maybe you should try to do something about that. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically how the episode ended. So this is good, because they're tying everything. They're like, everything's coming together quite nicely. We've inserted Kate Kane into the mix. We've secretly dropped her into the show. So she's gonna be a part of the show going forward as you know, as a member of the False Face Society. Jacob Kane is on drugs, and now there's gonna be a team up, you know, probably between Alice and Sophie at some point to go rescue Julia, who's been brainwashed. And it's only a matter of time before Enigma gets exposed as well. Alice is gonna be the one to do it, and then she's gonna be like, oh, since I helped you guys take her down, she's like, I want immunity or something like that. So this is cool. And thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of this episode of Batwoman so far. You know, what's going on with the situation with Ryan and the new girl. Are Ryan and the new girl gonna get it on you know, like right there at the community center? How long does Kate Kane stay behind the mask until we find out it's actually Kate Kane? You know, like, let's have a conversation and talk about it, because I saw the coming attractions for next week's episode and it looks like it's gonna be crazy. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Check me out on social media. Hit me on Twitter, hit me on Instagram, definitely on YouTube as always. Leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. Until next time, for Batwoman, signing off, and I'm out this